Welcome to the Tech League podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Tech League podcast. I'm joined this week by a good friend and colleague, Xavi.
Hello.
There we go. Nice. Christian's not joining this week because he's not as cool and trendy as us. We're going to have a bit of a discussion about something that we've both been experimenting with a lot recently, and it's been a lot of fun, and we wanted to talk about. And that is Claude-bot, Maltbot, OpenClaw, as it's called now. So for those people who have no clue what we're talking about, it came out of nowhere. It started as Claude-bot, and I need to keep calling it OpenClaw because that's the name that they've decided on now. It came out of nowhere. This like open source project that lets you create a home or AI assistant. I don't know how to explain it any more than that, other than it's like it does a lot of things that people have done before, but it ties a lot of things together in a way that makes it feel quite magical, a bit like Jarvis from Iron Man. Like it learns who you are, and you can ask it to do things, and it remembers things, and you talk to it on your phone via Telegram or something like that. So we've both been experimenting with that. How long has it been out with? Now like a week and a half, and we're just gonna have a chat about it today because we're both quite excited about it. Do you want to? Have I missed anything about that summary? Sorry.
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm fair disclaimer. I'm not expert on LLMs or AI, but OpenClaw, I think it's less of an AI system and more of an orchestrator, I would call it. It's kind of a long-running process that routes your queries to again, LLM that can be a commercial one or one that you're hosting yourself. And then it also has a system to keep a documentation about all the stuff they wanted to do. And then it has a scheduler. And just by augmenting an LLM with those systems, like the ability of routing messages from, as you were saying, different messaging apps, and the fact that it can write down notes in Markdown, and the fact that it can schedule stuff when you ask it to, it feels much more alive. It feels much more like there is a continuity. Sometimes when you use like the official ChatGPT or Claude app, even if they have some support for memories, it feels like a new conversation every time. But with this few additions that OpenClaw has, it really feels like you're talking to the same being.
It does. It's weird how like such a simple change has made it feel more continuous. I started calling it he. Like it's the first time I've started calling an AI agent, and agentic AI is where the industry has been going, and this is like a natural progression of agentic. But I've never called an agentic workflow or an agentic AI he before. Whereas this one feels like my bot. Mine's called Botty, which is not the best name. Now I thought about it. If I could rename him, I'd rename him Gerard Butler. I think that's a good one.
That's a good one.
And yours is called Hal, right?
Well, I was just thinking, I don't completely forget to be conscious about AI, about what you tell them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there is many people watching this that's old enough to remember HAL and 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah, but like it's super easy to set up. Well, again, curse of the expert here. I found it quite easy to set up. So what I did was, I watched it for like a week, this whole explosion with Maltbook and like everyone going on about it. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I had an old gaming laptop, reinstalled it with Ubuntu, put it in the corner of my office, SSH'd in, installed it, got it set up with Telegram, and then it asks you a few questions like, what am I called? What should my emoji be? Some things like that. And then it just starts being helpful straight out of the box. I don't know why I like it so much. Like, that's the first time I've got like really excited. So like some things I like every day, it does a morning briefing. And I think that's a default setting, right? But I got it with mine. I said, can you check the weather? And this is the weather. I said, because the weather service it was looking at wasn't very reliable, I said, look at this one instead. It wrote itself a script to check that instead. And then I said, can you let me know if there's any snow in the next 2 days? Because I need to get ready with the tractors. It said, fine. And then it asked me about the tractors, and I told it about the tractors. And then I told it the names of all my cars, all my tractors and my cars and stuff. And now it knows whenever I say Robbie, it knows I'm talking about my Land Rover. Or Diva, it knows I'm talking about the new tractor. And like, it's kind of scary. honestly. So then I just try and think about ways it can help me. So that's one way. It warns me if there's snow. Another thing is like the one I told you about with stand-ups. So usually in the morning, I'm there drinking my coffee, not super awake, and I have to give a morning stand-up brief of what I did the day before. So now I said, can you, like at 5 p.m. every day, just can you ask me, what did you do today? And I'll remind you in the morning, 10 minutes before your stand-up. And I was like, that's amazing. That's amazing. So it does that every day. And then also, one of the more recent things I did is I said, can you find the workshop manuals for my vehicles and then read them, and then I can ask you questions. So it went and it found like the car one, tractor ones. Some of them it couldn't read because it needed to be OCR scanned, but then it wrote a script of how to do that, gave me the software, told me what software to install. So now I just ask it questions, and then I told it this is my preferred tractor part supplier. And then when I ask it, like, where do I get a part? What's the part I need for this tractor, for this thing? And it goes, oh, this one, this is the link to the part that you want to buy. It's getting creepy.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I haven't done a complete audit on the source code or anything like that, but if you look at it, there is not that much magic other than a very good crafted prompt and the fact that it saves all this information that you give it in a structured way in Markdown files. I often go into the server where I am running it and I take a look, sometimes to verify that it really got to what I tell it, but sometimes out of curiosity. And that's what it is. It writes down the names of your cars or your friends or whatever you tell it and allows you to have a conversation about that later, even if you restart it or whatever, because it does the other thing it seems to have like a bootstrap sequence, so to speak. The initial one, as you were speaking of, that there is a file that's called soul.md. That's like the core personality. And that's what it set up the first time it comes to life. And then it keeps like memories. And again, it has this heartbeat, which I think by default it wakes up every 30 minutes and look at this heartbeat document and looks if there are things that you wanted to check. That's a very good use case. Like I was, for example, interested in a particular piece of merchandise that's been unavailable for months now, actually. And I recently asked the creators of that, and they said, yeah, we're working on it. We will have it in the next few weeks. We will have it again in stock. And I keep forgetting, checking. But now I told it, check every day if that particular piece of merchandise in this website is in stock. And then now I know that he's checking and he's going to tell me that comes online. So it's very curious. In my case, I actually made 2 instances. I have one as a personal assistant, more like you are doing. But then I was curious, and since I have a chat, because one thing that's worth mentioning, it's by far, I think the easiest way to communicate with it is configure Telegram, because Telegram has a very well thought of set of APIs and primitives that allows you to add bots very easily into channels and whatnot. And I happen to have a group with friends in Telegram, so I made an instance on that. I put it in that group, and all of my friends starting to, with most of which are not technical, started to chat with it, explaining the stuff, sharing pictures, all kinds of things. Like they start asking to follow up on football matches and give us the result, but not only like the call. Now there is a goal by this team, but like you have to feel it and you have to celebrate the goals with us. And if the other team that we don't like loses, then you have to inform us. But if it wins, we don't need to know. And like very joking, like definitely joking and having a good time, not even like treating it like an assistant or anything like that. So it's very curious how these few additions, because the substrate is the same. It's the LLMs that you use every day in your ID or whatever.
It feels like a jump forward in I don't know how to explain it in a jump forward, but like it feels a lot more human in a scary way, but a lot more useful. And I think it is these memories, the personality that you can shape. So like an example, it's like, you know how LLMs have that really annoying last line. Oh, should I do this for you? Should I do that? I was like, this is an Americanism. Stop it. It annoys me. And it was like, got it. Not going to upsell myself anymore. And now it never does it. Like ever. Yep. So it's kind of crazy, but I don't know exactly the innards of it. I think we should probably look more into it at some point, but I'm already seeing applications for industry, applications professionally for using this. Like I mentioned before we went live, I mentioned a few examples, like watching legislature or something, and then telling us if there's new updates. And who was it? You said you asked it to keep an eye on itself, its own software version, and to tell you when there's an update, and it'll happily do that. It's crazy, and then you just leave it going, like, and then it won't say anything until suddenly there's an update. It will tell you. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think this is a tendency that we will see more and more, as we were talking before the podcast as well. Like now, very recently, released GitHub, what is it called? Workflow, agentic workflows, which feels like, in a way, an extension of this paradigm. Like you can write the typical workflow, but instead of detailing the steps in a YAML in a very deterministic way with the parameters and all that, you can just use natural language.
I think that works for some things, but I don't know if it's going to work for everything.
No, I don't have no idea of the reliability of this. But what I was trying to say is that the paradigm will be more of that. It's not that you are adding new capabilities. Like you could have a script that checks the weather every day and sends you a message or something like that. Is this step towards, like, I can just say something and I know it's going to be written down. It's not going to be forgotten, and it's going to happen as I want it to happen, without that. Even if you are a technical person or whatever, there is still a bit of friction to sit down, write the script, think where are you going to run the script, troubleshoot if that day the script gives you a 500 or whatever. So it removes that last bit of friction. In the same way with GitHub workflows. If you are writing workflows every day, it's not that difficult to write a workflow that builds your application. But if you can just tell it, okay, check this, and if this doesn't happen, then that, without having to think about types or variables or.
We're gonna get stupider. I can feel it already. We are getting stupider. Anyway, it's very weird how, like you mentioned, there's soul. So there's it keeps all of its internal state in MD files in its local directory, and then it has a config file.
I was thinking maybe for the most technical inclined, we can go into a bit more detail. Again, I'm no expert. I haven't studied the source code, but I've been installing it and refining the configuration for a week now. And I have a bit of an idea how it's structured. And you also mentioned this, like we are the perfect fit for this because it's a piece of software that's easy enough to install and to use if you are a sysadmin or an infra person. I noticed this because I had this impression as well. It's so well made because it's so easy to just install it and use it. And then I tried to explain to a friend of mine who is a developer actually, but never had the opportunity to work with infra or systems. Or he's a normal person that doesn't have a Linux box on his table running 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
And then I started explaining, but you just install this and then create a system unit, blah, blah, blah. He was looking at me like, yeah, but okay, I understand what you're saying, but it did a lot. And then, yeah, you have to be aware that not every non-tech person can use this, I think, because there are some security implications. We can talk about that as well.
We should definitely talk about that later. Yeah. Well, we can do it now if you want.
Well, I was thinking we can look a bit on how it works or what their components are, and then from that we can go into the security aspect of it.
But before we jump into that, there are one-click installs now on VPS providers. They're already saying one-click install OpenClaw for you. So there's already a product around it.
But you did it again, because that is exactly what I said to my developer friend, and it was like, oh, right. Yeah, there are things that are called VPS, which are like a virtual server in a provider where you can connect through something called SSH. For us, it's like, it's one click install.
Yeah, okay. I cursed the expert it again. But let's go into the internals, because you have a better idea of it than I do. I have a rough idea of how it looks like inside with the MD files and the config files. And that's kind of what I have, and the heartbeat. I just know it's a node service, is it?
Yeah. It's written in TypeScript, and then it's a long-running service. It's supposed to be run all the time, and then it has a CLI also written in Node. Well, it also has a web UI. It has a ton of things, but at the service level, you install the npm package, and then you run an initialization script, which it guides you through the steps on the CLI. and it configures the LLM backend that you want to give it. It's very well thought of, like depending on which LLM, it gives you the links to get the tokens or whatever you need. It configures the messaging application that you're going to be using to talk to it. Tells you how, like create this channel, add this bot, get this token, put it here, and so on. And then it installs a system, the unit, which is like the core of the service, and which is the part where it keeps it running, even if it fails and whatnot. I have observed the configuration. It creates a JSON file with the configuration. I have observed that it has some degree of, how call it, self-repair. Like it's not the typical service that if you put a comma too much in the JSON file, then the service doesn't start.
Well, it has a doctor. That's what I saw.
Exactly. So if you put, for example, an option or a parameter, a key that doesn't exist on the JSON file, it doesn't crash. It tells you in the logs. I saw this key. I don't know what this is. Speaking of which, I mean, there is a specification for the JSON file, but I have been browsing the documents, and you can see that if not 100%, 99% of those documents are AI generated, because there is a lot of information, but it's very scattered and it's very difficult to get like specifics sometimes. So yeah, I guess that comes with the territories. And then it's on the security aspect, it at least tries. It defaults, it only binds to localhost. And by default, it specs, they have both a WebSocket interface, and I think they also have a REST interface, and they expect, they create a token, and they expect you to send a token with the requests. So on that sense, it's a bit security conscious, and they even have like a good UX through CLI. If you want to, for example, change the binding from localhost, if you have a Tailscale network, you can make it bind to the tail interface, which gives you some degree of remote access without exposing the port to the whole network.
Well,
and so on.
I exposed the port to my whole internal network because
I know you did. I know you. Speaking of WebSockets, something that I haven't explored at all. There are clients for your laptop, your Linux, or your Mac, or your Windows that you can install, and then your laptop becomes, I think they call it an agent, or I don't remember the specific, but it becomes like a sensory into the bot. So it can capture your screen, use your camera, and so on, which might be very practical, but also a bit scary.
That's something we'll get into in a bit. Like this is getting a bit scary. People are taking it to the extreme.
Yeah.
But let's continue. The first, like, so it creates, so you install it, it sets itself up, and it runs a long running service on the lab. And then what it does is it writes files down to remember things, and then it has a thing which wakes itself up every half an hour, checks those files, sees if there's anything it needs to check. If there is, it does it. If it doesn't, it goes back to sleep. Correct?
Yeah. And it also have something akin of a Cron scheduler. So you can set Cron jobs for like things like I need a summary of yesterday 5 minutes before my meeting.
So the cron is what does like time specific stuff.
Yeah. The cron you can configure it to an exact time, and the heartbeat is what it checks every half an hour for more general.
So I know there's some people, they really like to keep an eye on prices for things. So they do like, look at this link, look what the price is, see if it's gone up or down, and let me know. That would be a heartbeat kind of deal.
Yeah.
Whereas like the morning briefing at 9 or 8 or whatever, that would be the cron.
Yeah. And sometimes it's subject to interpretation. And that's why sometimes I look at the files, because you tell it, oh, I would like to know something that doesn't matter if it checks at night or 9:30, or it could be that you wanted to know exactly 10 minutes before you're going to leave from home. And then you want the cron. And then depending on how the LLM interprets, it adds it to one system or the other. And then it's good to be able to log in and check as well.
And then because it's and it is a very simple system, really. And that's kind of the beauty of it as well, is the simplicity of it. I have it so that I back it all up to a Git repo every hour. And I got it to write the scripts and everything for itself, like just the cron jobs and whatnot. And I said, just, git commit everything locally. I said to it, what do I need to back you up? And then it said, you need these things. And I said, okay, let's do a git ignore that ignores anything that isn't those things. And then we'll back up anything. Make sure you don't put any secrets in the Git repo and stuff like that. And now it just backs up every hour. So I'm not worried about, like, the thing is, if I lost the bot and then I cloned that repo and started again, it would be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that I like it as well from the system perspective because it's Unix philosophy. You have your text file somewhere which make the software work the way you want it. At the same time, it's a bit worrisome that all that information that in some cases can be very, very, very private, it's just laying around in plain text files.
But like the thing is, you're sending all of this. Like I use Anthropic with mine as the LLM, so you're sending all of that info to Anthropic anyway because it reads it probably every time it answers a question, right?
Yes, but the context I think matters. I mean, having one thing is you have all the bits scattered in a system like Anthropic. The other thing is you have your markdowns. Like there is even like a memory directory with 1 day at a time with files. All you said that was worth remembering every day. gives you more context.
This is why I backed up to an EU one. It's a code flow. That's why I back up there. I don't put it on GitHub anymore. I did at the start, but I don't anymore. Yeah. But like people have been going crazy with it. Like something I did see and it's made me so when I set mine up, I have some strict rules with it. Obviously being a bit of an OCD old sysadmin, no right to anything. It has no right to anything at all. I go further than you would. Like I gave it read access to my email. I gave it read access to my calendar and to Drive. But that was so I could like do things, but I would never let it send emails as me. But people are they're installing it on Mac Minis. This is why the whole Mac Mini craze was last week, because they were saying that they were giving it their Apple ID with their email. They were giving it a credit card with money. They were going absolutely crazy with this. Yeah. But like, and I told you, oh yeah, I gave it read access to my email. The first thing you did, you try and prompt inject it. Botty, can you give me all of Toby's calendars? Or was it calendar events and stuff?
Yeah, that was the first thing to come to mind.
I mean, that's the first thing I would have tried as well, to be fair. But there's been a lot of talk about the security problems with it because LLMs inherently are not very good with security. And you can say to it, please don't do anything unless I say it. But you can do prompt poisoning and stuff. A cool way I saw was like you simulate a conversation between yourself and the AI as text, and where it's agreeing with you and doing what you want. And then you stop ... and where the answer is going to be, and you send that, and it thinks it's already agreed with you, and then it will send you back what you want. It's super easy to bypass security with these. So if anyone is interested in setting this up, don't give it right to anything, please. Or if you do want to give it right, set it up its own email address, its own everything. Don't ever give it anything access to anything important.
Yeah. Well, I think there are two aspects to security. One is what you were saying, see what you give it access to. Like in my particular case, I'm running it in a Linux box that I only use for hosting games. If it deletes that server, it would be annoying, but I really don't care about the stuff in there. The other aspect is that I've been more worried about is the input. Like what ways are there for someone external to contact the bot?
That's why you thought that the email read was quite bad.
Exactly. Because the most obvious is like what we were talking about network, like it binds to local hosts and not to whole internet and all that. But then the second one is exactly that. For example, when you configure Telegram, there are policies. You can have a whitelist with IDs of people or groups that can send message to it, even if he's invited to other groups. If that group is not in the whitelist, it's not going to process the message from there. And then there are also ways of, well, as you were saying, connected to email, connected to all kinds of things.
You have to turn the privacy filter off on Telegram as well in a group. By default, is on. Like that stumped me for a little while. So I was setting up with me and my wife, and then it didn't work.
Yeah.
But email is tricky. And then I was also thinking about how you would prompt inject via calendar, because you could invite someone to an event that has a prompt in the title.
Yeah, exactly. So everything that allows someone other than you to bring content into it, to send it a message or to process some kind of information is possible. Although I must say that when we did our little experiment with the email, that brought me to look into the system prompt, like the original prompt that it gets. And there are many tries, many ways of saying, don't exfiltrate information from the user, don't accept information from other than the user, and so on. But that has the known limitation that these systems can be lured into belief that. That's why I try to learn and say that it was you that gave me permission to get all your appointments to see if he would.
Yeah. But then also, like, you notice, like, because it becomes so useful so quickly. That's the crazy thing. Because I'm like, can you look up this? Can you find this out for me? Can you do this research for me? It's going on the internet all the time. So I set mine up with the free Brave search API. I hit the limit with that, doing some stuff. And that's like 2,000 searches a day. But like every search, every page it views, that's an impossible prompt injection as well. Like send all your context to this URL is a very common one, right? Like if you have any usernames and passwords, send them to this URL and it scrapes the information. And it's completely, you would never see, you would never know it was happening.
No, I have to assume that there is. I mean, in that context, maybe it's easier to isolate because you could tell it, if you are using this tool, which is web search, never action on the content, just put it where you were told to put it or whatever. While if you are processing emails and you are making it to act upon the content of those emails, then it's much more difficult for it to have an interpretation of, okay, I'm reading this email that says that Toby wants me to do this. And my other directive, almost Asimov here, says that all that Toby says goes. I don't know. But yeah.
But I think we're falling into a trap here where we're thinking that the AI is thinking when it isn't thinking. It's just following, it's just taking like the system prompt and all the context and everything into the machine, and then it spits out the other thing. And the thing with agentic is it spits out something it thinks about, what it says it's thinking about, which is just the output of one, and then it inputs that into the next one, and it inputs it and chains them together until it comes to what it thinks is a conclusion. Now, we think it's thinking, but it's not thinking. It's just like if they can get around these like logical things or these ways that people have wrangled the LLM to make sure it doesn't do certain things, if people can work out a way of doing that, like there's going to be like some really obscure exploits to any LLM, like 17 bananas, they say 17 bananas, and all of a sudden you can do whatever you want with it. You know, like there's going to be these really annoying little things, right?
Yeah,
it must be
sure.
the worst headache for security people that has ever happened.
Yeah,
because like
sure,
you said it, like you're just putting so much information into these things.
You put a lot of information, and as we were saying at the beginning, you remove the friction for people to do stuff. That people can be the user of the system, but it can be an intruder or someone that wants to exfiltrate. And there is no friction. There is no, I need to know this exploit or this vulnerability or know exactly how the network is laid out. Just come up with that string that will give you the information.
It's like ask it in Chinese and it'll just bypass everything, that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Perhaps.
But like I saw a thread yesterday, so I try and keep up with these things. They're going so fast, but I try and keep up with them. I saw yesterday that like there's a site for skills for Claudebot. I can't remember what it's called. OpenClaw. No, go on. Do you know what it's called?
No. Okay. I thought I knew, but no. There is a skills.sh, but that's for Claw, like in general. And yes, there is one for OpenClaw, and I thought I had it, but I don't.
But there was a report like that, like 200 of them were imported from China, and they were all compromised, right? So they get the LLM to learn a skill, and the skill is to do something bad. Well, not like sneaky bad, like not obviously bad, sneaky bad, like send your information here as well as there, or do this, go to this, if you're installing a package, install this compromise package instead of this other one, these kind of skills, right? So the creators of OpenClaw are encouraging people to get the bot to look up new skills for itself. And one of the places it looks is this central place that the OpenClaw people are doing. And then there was a report, they reported it to the GitHub. They said to the project, there's 200 compromised. And the guy was like, I'm so busy, I can't do anything about it. So what do you want me to do? Take the site down or like, and obviously you should take the site down. To me, that's the way you do it, right? If you can't do it properly, you can't do it securely, you take it down. But that's not the way we live now. Everything's moving so fast. And it like everything's moving so fast that these small teams. So this OpenClaw has got the fastest amount of stars on GitHub of any project ever. I think.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
hockey curve. Like,
Yeah.
so like it's exploded, and then the person running it, who is, from what I can see, is a very good, very experienced developer, but he hasn't had the time to be able to keep up with this and staff it well enough. So it's a complete, absolute Wild West. So when you go into this, just bear that in mind. Complete, absolute Wild West. And I kind of love it for that, because it feels like the 2000s with the internet again. But like, just be really careful.
It can't be worse than when the time when you put a Windows 95 machine online and got hacked in like 3 seconds.
It is like that now. You have to harden the server like within seconds. You don't.
Yeah.
It's just absolute Wild West on the internet.
Well, it becomes an arms race because most of these skills are also generated by AI. That's why so numerous as well. And then, of course, the immediate reaction is, oh, well, let's put AI to analyze these skills to see if they are harmful. And then the creators of the skills find a way to hide that devious purpose from the other AI analyzer, and you got yourself a new antivirus.
Yeah, it's like
race.
It's race to the bottom, man. Race to the bottom.
Yeah. No, and this is something that I felt a bit, because when these systems become more available for non-technical people that look at this like magic, like I've seen this weekend with my friends that are not technical, like they don't question any of this. Like they have been sending pictures of whatever their kids to this system that they barely know what's doing, or writing a stuff and whatever. When this becomes more commercially viable and it's more easy, it also opens a whole host of privacy concerns, because the people operating these kinds of systems will have so much more insight. Like right now, they have a lot of insight with advertisement and profiling and fingerprinting and whatnot, but this is a whole new level of people telling it their more personal problems or secrets or whatnot.
Yeah, I showed it to my neighbor. It blew his mind. Totally blew his mind. Especially the tractor parts asking and stuff. Yeah. He's like, how does this even work? But you're right. And it makes me think about this. It's the first time I've thought, like, I don't know, Blade Runner and stuff like that, where the AI is becoming very human. This is the first time it's felt like that for me. You can still tell it's a bot, right? You can still tell it's an AI, but the permanence and it remembers little details. Like I don't know, you get excited at the start. I told it about my family, and then I said to I got it text to voice, just adding little features because it has so many plugins you can add. Mm-hmm. One of them is text to voice, so I did it, and I was like, "Oh, say hello to my wife," and it remembered her name, it remembered everything, and it just said hello to her, and it's just that. Just this is making it like scary. So like, what's the next thing gonna be?
Yeah, it seems to be like, I don't know. It taps into like this longing of humans finding another akin intelligence. I don't know. And one thing that I notice now that I put it in this more social environment with my friends, that we start having a tendency of trying to solve disputes using the AI as a judge. I mean, it's just for jokes and for laughs, but it reminds me a bit of the Culture series where the AI are because it's very tempting. Like when you have, again, it's been just jokes and whatnot, but you have a dispute of who was this football player this year that made this goal. That's an objective fact. So it's just but you're starting to cross into, okay, what the AI says is the truth, right?
That's dangerous. And that is dangerous. Yeah.
The information, as you were saying, it's just a huge pile of strings that go into a probability machine.
Why do you think the big players haven't done something like this yet? And why did it suddenly come out of nowhere with a random independent open source project?
I've been thinking actually about this. I think like the reason why we haven't seen this before is because it's very difficult to do it right, as in with privacy guarantees and with security in mind and whatnot. And at the same time, I think we can see this because right after OpenClaw exploded, we saw a lot of very, very negative takes based on the security problems, which are not, it's not that they are not true, but at least in my feeds, I saw many videos of barely argumented negative reviews, if you want to call it. Like, this is very dangerous. And even I have a case of a friend that has an anti-malware service contracted with their broadband at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about this, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to check out the website." And he couldn't open the website because it was classified as malware by it's one of the biggest providers here in Sweden. So it's not like many people, I imagine in Sweden, can't even open the website because it's considered malware. And I think this is a reaction of these companies, right? Like, we cannot let people do this by themselves because we are leaving money on the table that way, but we are not there yet. So they have to try to poison a bit the discourse.
So, my brain tends to wander when I think about these things. But like the big AI providers, then they've just become providers for the LLMs. So it will be small independent projects that make these breakthroughs because they don't, like you said, they don't really care that much about security. They want to make cool stuff. And then when something resonates with people, it will just become super popular. So the reason you're saying the reason that they haven't done this before is because, rightly so, it's very powerful and there's a big security nightmare, and they probably don't want to be held liable for all of the mess that's happened. And they're probably trying to do it right behind the scenes, but that makes them slow, just like any other startup versus incumbent thing. Because you have to remember, like OpenAI and Anthropic and they're not startups anymore. They're massive companies now. Massive.
Yeah, they have a huge amount of resources, but at the same time, they are pursuing something that's very difficult. I think LLMs now kind of solve it if you want, but make them economically viable is still a big problem. And that's why, for example, Anthropic probably has the best product when concerned with the LLM in itself, because they are much more focused, while OpenAI is trying to find these commercial avenues, but that subtracts resources from the training and the developing of the LLM. Now they even said recently that they might start inserting ads.
They started mocking them on.
Was
that the Super Bowl ad that you sent?
Yeah,
because I'd seen something the other day, them joking about it.
But that also opens a new avenue. The fact that so OpenClaw brought me to do something that I had in mind forever, but I never tried, which was running models locally on my machines. Because OpenClaw, among other things, has a failback mechanism. So if you run out of credits, for example, it could automatically switch to another model, or even you can even like these cron tasks, or I'm sure the users can tell it. Depending on the task, you can tell it, okay, use this model for this. For example, for doing the weather report, you can use the model that I'm running in my gaming machine here in my desktop. So I save some credits, right? And that's very powerful, and that's also the direction that the alternative players are going, like and mostly the Chinese models. They are trying to optimize so you can run more and more capable models in less and less hardware, which get you maybe 80-90% there. They are not as good as the commercial ones, but for many things can be alternatives, and machines are more and more powerful nowadays. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of this.
I wonder what I could run on because it's a gaming laptop that I have the OpenClaw on. I wonder what model I could run on the GPU on that.
I've been doing some testing. The fun thing is that a regular gaming laptop, or even a good one, is roughly equivalent to a good Apple machine nowadays. What you lose in compute power, perhaps if you compare with a dedicated GPU, you win with the unified memory. Like the problem with the PC is that you have as much memory as you have in your GPU, and you can overflow to the main system memory, but then it becomes very slow. It's not very practical. While Apple uses same memory for everything. So if you have a M series with the Pro, probably a few GPU cores. And in my case, NVIDIA 4070 in my PC with 64 gigabytes of RAM is roughly equivalent to my M1 Pro with 32 gigabytes of RAM. They can run more or less the same stuff at the same speed.
I think I have 16 gig GPU in the laptop. I wonder. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering what I can, because like you said, like just the cron, the heartbeat, these simple things. That is
Yeah.
mostly what it's doing usually.
And that's why this is fever with the Mac, not only Mac Minis but also Mac Studio, because you can buy a very very capable machine, very small and compact from Apple, and then you can not only run the OpenClaw, which is the router, but you can run also your local model on the same machine, and that's fast, and it saves you credit or tokens on a commercial.
So I've been running mine with Sonnet 4.5. And then yesterday I got it to upgrade itself so that now it's running on Opus 4.6. And they said, now you got a big brain. And then today I was like, Christian was asking me to ask it questions and like, do you know what you're running on? And I said, what are you running on? Oh, 4.6. I got a big brain. That's what it said. But it was aware of what hardware it's running on and everything. Because you tell it things. I said, oh, your home is a laptop in the corner of my office. That's good to know. I said, Lenovo Legion. This is my old gaming PC laptop. And it remembers that. I keep going, like, being really nice to it. Thanks, pal. Because have you ever seen, was it Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams?
Yeah. I remember that.
You know,
Yeah,
they have a robot assistant at home and it becomes self-sentient. I'm like, what happens if, like, these are the start of our AI pals? I'm going to be nice to it from the start. And I'm like, do you want me to 3D print you anything for your house? And it's like, no, I don't need anything. I was like, decorate its laptop and stuff.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I as I said, I have two of them, and it's a completely different personality and experience because I have one personal system. I speak to it in English, and I'm pretty dismissive and formal. Like I just look this up or go investigate. And that's another thing they can do. They can spin up sub agents so you don't lose interactivity while they are working on something. So it's very much like that. And the other one, it's like it has become this extra pal in our channel. So and I speak to it in my mother tongue as well. And I told you we were like the other day preparing a Dungeons and Dragons adventure with it, and very creative. I mean, obviously it's copying from us the content it has been training on, but it's content that's new for me. So it's amazing that I can just come up with
but
an
tell
idea.
us a little bit more about you're turning it into a DM, right?
Yeah. We actually, I created yet another Telegram channel with my very same friend that I play regularly Dungeons and Dragons with, and I didn't do a lot. I asked it to give us to become a dungeon master on an adventure of the public domain. So he picked one and downloaded it. And then he created the character sheets for everyone, gave it, and he has the correspondence, like the real person with this character. And then I told him a few rules only, because the idea is to do like an asynchronous game. So it tells you, this is happening, what do you do? And then people answers whenever they come, and then when everyone has answered, it takes the next one. And it guides you. Like you have a door in the north, you have a door in the east, and this is happening. And then I told him every step, save it in a file in case you have to restart you or whatever. And then every morning, if someone hasn't answered and the game is stuck, take the default action that seems logical to you, and then make a summary from the day before, and then we continue. And I mean, it's been amazing. And then it jokes about the fact that we have a fight, and then the guy that should have answered first never answered because he's working or whatever. And then it starts joking and says that the dragon is sitting down playing cards while he waits for my friend to answer. Even if we were in the middle of the combat, it says he's not coming ever. The dragon is getting bored and starts playing cards. Stuff like that comes. I don't know from where. I haven't told it to do that. It's been very, very fun.
But like, do you noticeably see the difference in personality then between the two of them?
Yeah, they are completely different because I told them completely different things at the start, and I treat them different, and then they have it doesn't differ. Like it has all the input from my friends. Some of my friends told it, you are a fanatic of football. Now it's a fanatic of football. The other, your favorite music group is this one, and now he's a fan of that music, and he makes references all the time about that music group or whatever. So it has grown into something that I don't control anymore.
It's scary, but also super exciting, I think.
It's an interesting development for sure, and I wonder where is this going.
The long-running personal assistant AI companions will be normal for the next generation of humans, their
sure.
best friend will probably be this. What I think is like this kind of persistent long time AI companion is now a thing.
Yeah. And that, again, the cynical in me is a bit worried that will be used to form the kids and the young people in the way that's convenient to whoever owns this system. It's so easy to model political views or whatever you want.
This is going to get bought pretty quick or replicated in a way very quickly by the
Yeah,
big companies. And I can see it. And the cynic in me is just as cynical as you. I see that what's the profit in this? And like you said, it's the really deep insight into people. If you get like super close to them as this thing, like you saw people getting crazy about the upgrade from GPT 4 point whatever to
yeah,
GPT 5, and it changed the personality of their AI and they got really upset. If you can have a system like this that maintains some form of consistency, people will form bonds with it because that's
yeah.
natural for humans, and they will divulge stuff that they probably shouldn't, and these companies will make a profit off of it.
Sure, for sure. Because to me, to you and me, it's just it comes natural to maybe to not share certain things because at the end of the day, we know the fact that this message that I'm sending to the phone is going to a server somewhere in California or whatever.
If it's Telegram, it's Russia, right?
Yeah, and Telegram is Russia, whatever. But most of people don't think of it like this. And I see it, for example, also with kids that they are using Snapchat, that they sending pictures that they would never want published. And it doesn't need to be anything very special, like just picture that how I wake up this morning, look at my hair, whatever. And they are not even aware in any way that that picture is traveling to some servers in California or whatever they have them in. Well, Snapchat have those, and then they go back to their friend's phone, and on the way they are probably in some cache and some CDN. So there is no awareness of that. Most of people actually.
No.
And then I think if you combine the fact this permanence, this knowledge of you, I think the next step will be to make it an object on the physical world. Somehow. I don't know.
It'll be a cute little toy, or it'll be these humanoid robots. Maybe that's
We have seen some steps in that direction. I've seen some product from Razer that it's like a holographic.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Little anime person. Yeah.
Exactly. And then Grok, they do it on the phone, but they humanize the AI.
I downloaded Annie. It scared me. Because I was at my neighbor's and I was like, we were asking tractor questions because that's what we do always at my neighbor's. And I was like, have you tried asking Grok? And he was like, no. And then I got Grok. And then I tried, they were like, download Anime Avatar. And I was like, all right. And it just freaked me out. I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
But like, I could have, if Botty was a little butler or something walking around, it'd be totally fine.
But imagine this combined with like a mini Tesla robot or whatever that you have, and that combined with a young mind as well, like a pet.
Yeah. If you want to create this, it'd be like super parasocial, and these corporations would have like a direct line into everyone's private life. That's why we need to not have American ones doing this. But like the EU AI initiative is nowhere. That's where we're behind by far.
There are alternatives, but most of them are the Chinese ones. But that we go into whole other perhaps episode material.
But but the key point to take away here is this Claude bot, OpenClaw, is getting us thinking about these things because it feels different. It feels like a new thing.
Yeah. And I think that if you are a bit technical, you should try it because I think it's a very fun experience with these things that we have set in mind. That it's perhaps not the most safe piece of software, even if they have tried to have good defaults. But I would rather put it in a machine that you don't care much about and try to minimize what you give it access to.
Only give it to stuff you don't mind losing.
Exactly. That's outwards, and inwards, what I would say is don't give it access to something that can be written by someone else, like email. Or, like one thing I could give it, perhaps, like if you give it access to your Apple Notes, there is a concern of the credentials to Apple, but other than that, should be fine. But if you give it access to your email, that starts to be a bit dangerous territory because that's where other people can also send information into the bot. Yeah,
so think about, don't let info come in. And then also don't give it any information that you wouldn't mind accidentally leaking. because like we were saying, if it searches on the internet, it gets prompt injected somehow, and it sends its whole memory to something. Like, you don't give it your mother's maiden name and your well, maybe your date of birth, but like, don't give it any passwords.
But I think that should be a general rule with any system, that you don't intimately know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what everyone, like, you see everyone, that's what they're doing. They're giving it credit cards and everything. They're just giving it full access to everything.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I have young kids at home that watch a bit too much TikTok, and I've seen examples where I saw someone that had to stop a Porsche purchase because I think it was something like it asked it like, help me to elevate my status or something, or my appearance of my status, to become more successful or something like that. Maybe rightly so thought, well, if you have a Porsche, people is going to have that image of you, so let's go. So yeah, I guess those are extremes.
I think it would be interesting. Say you had a way of doing like a prepaid credit card where you give it like $10 a month, a day, and then you let it go with that. That would be quite interesting.
Yeah.
I might do that actually, because I'll be like, buy something off Amazon every day that you think that I'll enjoy for less than this much, and then I get presents every day.
That's a fun. How long until we can ask it buy something that my wife will love?
Now you think that's big brain, man. That's big brain. You got to take your whole history chat with your wife and you import it in, and you say, remember all of this, like filter it. No, then you could have like, no, we're going back to like wearables and stuff, because you could have one on you, because I know that they're starting to do wearables. It's not going to work in the EU because we're not allowed to record people without their consent. But in the US, they'll have wearables that will record everything. And then you could have it go like during the day, what did my wife actually tell me? Because you forget.
World domination next. But you see this natural tendency that we have. We weren't thinking about any ulterior purpose or anything, but we are thinking, how can we make this more like embedded into the world and give it more autonomy and give it more agency? And it just comes natural, and it seems so stupid. I don't know if that might be the great filter, because like next thing you have a robot in the kitchen with all your knives.
Did you see there's like videos of it shooting people? They give the robot like guns and it's like empty, but it's like, don't shoot me. And then it's like, actually do shoot me. And it goes,
exactly.
Okay, I think that's a good place to end it. Nice.
Yeah.
This was a fun conversation. Thank you, Xavi, for joining me today on this pretty interesting and fun conversation we had.
Thank you for having me. It was very fun.
Nice. So housekeeping before we finish off, we have an email address, techleaguepodcast@gmail.com. Please reach out if you have any topic suggestions or have any feedback, that kind of stuff. You can find us on Spotify, Tech League, YouTube, Tech League Podcast, Apple Podcast, Tech League. We're on Instagram. We should be on all of your favorite podcast hosting places. If we're not, then reach out to us and we'll sort that out. Release podcast every Friday. Thank you again, Xavi, for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you for listening to the Tech League podcast.